Dr. Ann, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Major ups for the mom?
Well, first of all, I totally get her complete frustration. Totally get it. I mean, her first impulse, because she's completely frustrated, is just throw the book at her daughter, make sure her daughter understands that she's not going to tolerate this kind of behavior. I totally get that. But here's a little different way of looking at it. The mom didn't know what to do with her own frustration, so I sort of felt like she was being just as dramatic as she accuses her daughter of being with the way she posted this on Facebook. So to me, one of the issues to think about is that she didn't know what to do with her own feelings. I have a program here in California I've been working on for 2 years just to teach this very idea that parents need to know how to deal with the way they feel and teach their kids how to do that, because otherwise the kids are going to lash out at their parents and the parents are going to lash out at their kids.
Well, we don't know what led up to this, though. There may have been numerous warnings, as there were in the past, as I often do with my kids, and when that falls upon deaf ears, you may have to take extreme actions in your own hand, although I wouldn't consider this extreme. It sounds like you think this is extreme.
No, I don't necessarily think it's extreme, but what I think is it's not very effective, because she's trying to punish her child with humiliation. She's trying to cause her child disrespect, loss of pride, all that kind of stuff that goes with humiliation. Here's the reality, is if you humiliate your kids in public like this, then that just breeds resentment. And what ends up happening with teenagers, if they resent their parents, they'll just think about ways of getting back at their parents and disrespecting them in other ways.
Yeah, but I'll always win because I'm the parent. I'm smarter.
Well, you think you're smarter.
I am smarter.
And in some ways, yes, you are, hopefully. But here's the reality, is don't we want our kids to not just stop doing this kind of disrespectful behavior, but we want them to change it. We want them to know not to do this again. If she just uses punishment and humiliation, her kid's never really going to know about true consequences. And I'm all for consequences. I think consequences
Well, explain that theory to me, because it seems to me, if you embarrass me publicly because your last name is mine and you're my child, and therefore you represent me to a certain degree, and you do something that you know is wrong and forbidden, and I call you out on that publicly, how is that harmful to the kid?
Well, the way it's harmful to the kid is the way they react to it, is what I'm saying. Because we got to think about the teenage brain here for a minute. Like you said, they're not quite as smart. It doesn't function the same way as our brain. So the reality is they see that public humiliation with their peers, and what they do is all they do is resent their parents. They don't think about, well, how should I do this differently? And the way consequences should be set up is to get kids to think about doing something differently the next time. Because my guess is what this mom really wants her daughter to do is to not engage in this kind of, disrespectful behavior again. And the other thing is, the mom doesn't sound like she had any plan. She didn't really necessarily have a discipline plan, and so she just reacted just as dramatically as her daughter was reacting to some, communication.
But isn't
with her
that
friends.
the genius of the illustration, that I'm as acting as ridiculous as you are? And if you think I'm ridiculous, turn the mirror around. That's how you're acting.
Well, that works for you and I as adults for sure, because I'd say, well, hey, yeah, I don't want to act like you are. But see, kids don't interpret it the same way. They just interpret it like their parents is, again, slamming the book at them. And
well, that's what we're supposed to do. We're parents.
Well, to me, I think what we're supposed to do as parents is, number one, have a plan. I have a book called Parenting Passport, which does exactly that. It gives you a plan so that when your kids are in stressful moments and they're in the middle of, being oppositional to you, instead of being oppositional back to them, you have a plan of how you're going to give them a consequence, and the plan's the most successful when the kid goes, hey, I'm never doing that again.
What would you do in this case, Doctor? Instead of posting the picture of Facebook with the X through the girl's mouth, what would you do in this case to get her to act the way you want to?
Okay, this is what I do, and this is a super consequence. I wouldn't say a word to my daughter. I would just take down her Facebook. I'd take away her phone, and I wouldn't say anything. She'd say, "Hey, Mom, where's my phone?" I wouldn't talk to her. I'd just say, "No phone." Then, so she gets this dramatic hit. All of a sudden, oh, I didn't even know. She pays attention. There's no Facebook. There's no phone. Then later on, she says to her mom, "Hey, Mom, can I have some money to go to the movies with my friend?" Then Mom can calmly look at her daughter and say, "Nope, no Facebook, no phone, no movies, none of that, because you decided on your own that you were going to be disrespectful and engage in all this drama, which I don't approve of, so now your life as you know it is not the same. You don't get to have fun with your friends. You don't get all of these social media toys anymore." Now that kind of response to your child, it is a consequence. They're going to stand up and go, "Holy cow, I had no idea that she was going to do all this stuff, and she really means business. It's over." And it becomes a teaching moment between the parent and the child, not all of the world to see on Facebook.
All right, I get the aspect of keeping it individual, but it's still going to breed resentment. Your daughter's still going to not understand. She's going to be mad. She thinks you're overreacting and being overly dramatic by not only taking her phone and Facebook away, but now not giving her money to go to the movies. And when she asks, it's all because of that. It's still going to breed resentment. That's the whole idea with teenagers. They resent us.
Well, there is a certain amount of resentment, but look, when you're having a one-on-one conversation with your child, what that also breeds is communication. So it's not all of us talking about what we saw on Facebook and all her friends talking to her and the parents talking. It's the parent and the child, because really, if you're going to have change in a family, it's got to be direct communication between the parent and the child. Not all the rest of us, analyzing and talking about it, because that makes the child even more resentful.
Well, let me ask you this, Dr. Ann Corwin of theparentingdoctor.com. What about the threats? What about saying this? For example, and I think this worked with my daughter a couple of years ago, where she would leave her clothes in things all over the house. And I said this. I said, "Look, here's the deal. I don't leave my clothes all over the house. I don't leave my underwear and socks all over. I don't expect you to do the same." I said, "If you continue to do this, you know what I'm going to do to get your attention is I'm going to take your bra and I'm going to hang it off the light post out front. So when you get home from school, you know that you need to clean your clothes up. Would you like me to do that?" And she said, "No, haven't had a problem." Is that harming my child? Just that discussion and say, this is what I'm going to do if you continue to disrespect me and not follow the rules of the house.
Well, here's what I really like about what you did is you had a plan and you told her beforehand. That's what my Parenting Passport book does. That is excellent parenting in my book. Now, here's the part that I think you went wrong a bit, and that is by saying that you said, in order for me to get a solution, I'm going to threaten you. So what ends up happening when we threaten kids, now it worked for you, and I'm not saying that you're not telling me exactly what happened and that it worked for you, but here's the deal.
I don't know if it did. She's in jail right now.
Yeah. But here's the deal, is you threatened her. So what ends up happening is that she learns that there's a certain amount of my dad that I should fear and feel threatened by.
Correct. Now we agree.
Okay, but let me finish. Here's the last point, is that if she has a certain amount of fear, the number one defense mechanism for fear is aggression. So in some kids, maybe not your daughter, but in some kids, if they feel fear from their parent, they'll be even more aggressive towards their parents, do even more disrespectful things, cause even more turmoil in the family because they are feeling like their back is up against a wall, they're threatened. That's why I don't think threatening is the best solution.
I'll break their heads open. You kidding me? You want to know about threats, Dr. Ann Corwin? You got on my wrong side. You're my kid. How about this? Now, you mentioned that it's so embarrassing. Public humiliation is such an awful thing for kids, right?
Well, I don't think it gets you what you want to get. See, that's the thing. I'm all about, okay, let's do solutions for
But I think sometimes that adversity could be... Let me give you an example of my own life. You want to hear a sad tale from my own life, Dr. Ann Corwin?
Sure.
Sure you do. Okay. When I was like 6 or 7 years old, I don't know, it was like around kindergarten, it was somewhere around that age. My mom signs me up for YMCA day camp. And I had kind of like an unnatural fear of water. I didn't like water, the whole thing. And she's like, well, we're going to get you some swim lessons, the whole bit. And so first day of swim, they line everybody up according to swim ability. And, of course, I'm at the one end where I have no swim ability. And they ask me what the problem is. I tell them that I'm afraid of water. Okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put you in the shallow end, and we're going to put you Scott Sloan on a stool. And then you're going to jump into the water, and we'll catch you. Well, they didn't catch me. I sank right to the bottom like a rock. So the next day, Dr. Ann Corwin, you know what I did?
What?
Do you know what I did? I left deliberately my swim trunks at home just so I wouldn't have to swim. Pretty clever for a 6-year-old kid, right?
Yeah, very clever.
Very clever.
Actually.
You know what they did to me?
I don't know what they did.
They made me swim in my tighty whities. In front of the girls, in front of the boys, and in front of all the other parents and instructors. Made me swim, Dr. Ann Corwin, in my underwear. Now, how about that for humiliation?
Yeah, I would say you're right. It's a sad story, and it is.
But you know what, Dr. Ann Corwin? You know what, though? There's an upside to it. That adversity that I faced in my young life led me to overcome my fears of water, so much so that I became a very proficient swimmer, swam in high school, swam collegiate, and you know what, as a matter of fact, I, by a hair, almost qualified for the 1992 Olympic Games in the 100 meters.
Awesome. I love hearing that.
How about that, sir? So adversity. I was almost a gold medal Olympian doing Subway commercials, Dr. Ann Corwin, because of that initial fear of water. So I contend maybe that is a good thing.
Here's what I contend is what really happened. Not that you learned from the humiliation, but what you learned is how to deal with the way that you were feeling. You were scared. Mm-hmm. They put you in a really scary situation. That was the feeling that you had that was in front of the behavior that you were forced to do because of your unthinking parent at that moment in time, in my opinion. So you learned to deal with the way that you feel, and that's how you went on to be able to do, the swimming and be able to get past that. That's my whole point.
An Olympian, Dr. Ann Corwin, representing the United States of America.
Love it, love it. That's like
all
awesome.
Because I was disrespected and humiliated, much like this girl on Facebook.
No, I don't think so. I think it's because you learned how to deal with the way you felt in that situation, either internally or you would watch somebody who was really scared, learn how to overcome that and how to deal with that in a way that made you successful instead of pulling you down. And that's what my whole project the last 2 years, Pocket Full of Feelings, that's what it is it's learning how to deal in appropriate ways with the way you feel. You were put in a situation where you were scared out of your mind initially and then the second time. And what you did is you rose above it because you figured out how to deal with that. And that's how you went on to be successful, not the humiliation. That wasn't the driving force.
But it was maybe a catalyst.
Maybe it was a catalyst. I don't know about
without that humiliation.
I don't think that's
I
necessary.
Never would have represented America in the 1992 Summer Games. Dr. Ann Corwin, the website is theparentingdoctor.com. I'll make sure I link you up on Facebook there. Dr. Ann, thanks again for the time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You got
great.
it. There you go.
Okay.